the topic of this one is really the integrating with the CRM. And I think this is probably one of the more important aspects of the platform is from a strategy perspective, we as a company, as you've seen with the platform, we're not, when we integrate with CRMs, it is not a checkbox. We go absolutely deep from a technical perspective, and we have a lot of features and capabilities that help you get the most out of the CRM that you're currently using. So I think it's an important topic to be addressing. So I'm going to start off at the very back. I'm going to go 10,000 feet up and talk a little bit about really the role of sales and marketing and how these two groups play together. And really, the sales and marketing teams. Let's state it what it is. We're here to all sales and marketing is really there to do is to sell more stuff and things. That's it, right? So for both sales and marketing, I think we have to understand the data side of the equation, because we're talking about software here. Both the sales and marketing teams are going to be using a lot of data, and to help those buyers through the journey, it's important to have a fantastic data strategy. So if we think about at the top of the funnel, when we're doing marketing, doing target accounts or prospects, etc., of course, we as companies are going to do a lot of research, right? We're going to find the data. I should say the accounts or the companies that we want to target, or even the buyer profiles, all of this type of stuff. So really at the top of the funnel, the data that we're collecting is really, it's descriptive data, right? So company names, their locations, their verticals, or even in B2C, maybe it's demographic, this type of stuff. So this is the foundation of our marketing and sales programs. And typically where this data resides is quite often we're actually capturing this data or setting up this data inside the marketing automation platform, Active Demand. Some of this data may make it into the CRM, or it is in the CRM. Maybe we have a bunch of spreadsheets, slide decks, reports, etc. And as we start doing marketing activities, our prospects are going to engage with us. Active Demand is fantastic for collecting all of this behavioral data. And so this behavioral data is really what we, with our marketing hats on, are using for inference. The prospect does this. We can infer that they're interested in this. We can watch what they're doing on the website. We can see which emails they click, which pages they visit, all of this type of stuff. And if they're anonymous, it's sure they're engaged, but also the ones that we have the anonymity removed, they're going to be doing stuff, and Active Demand really collects all of this stuff. So typically this data is clear. Well, clearly it's going to be in Active Demand, but it's also in some of the other platforms, and we expose some of this behavioral data and dashboards, etc. And then really the best data of all is the factual data, or the direct interaction data. And this comes from people talking to people. Right? It's not inference. If you're using Active Demand's call tracking and you're recording calls, that's really what is happening. Or if you're recording chats, or if you're looking at form fills, or if you're looking anything that the prospects are doing where we're actually getting people talking to people, this is the direct interaction data, and it is truly the factual data. And this data typically resides in the CRM. Right? It's, if our salespeople are talking to prospects, then it should be, both the calls are logged in the CRM, the salesperson's interpretation of what's going on, plus the direct connections are typically, all of this data that is direct interaction data is typically in the CRM. Now, and of course, we need to have a strategy that flows all of this data back up so that our foundation, it becomes more robust. It's a case we can do better inferences, or speculations are less speculative and more closer to fact, I guess it is. So really, we need a data strategy when we're doing a CRM integration. Now, a couple of observations on that last slide is marketers are actually in control of the majority of the data, right, is the systems and yes, sales are engaged, but let's face it, our salespeople, they're a unique lot of folks, and they're typically talking to prospects. They might participate in some of the research, but really it's going to be anecdotally. They'll say, "Hey, go talk to these people," or "These people are important," and then they're on the phone talking to prospects. So really, the data masters, if you will, if we're thinking about people in the organization, it is the marketers, right? So as a marketer, you're going to be in control of the majority of the data, or responsible for the majority of the data. And as marketers, we're going to do a much better job if we have better data, right? This is not an assumption. It's true. If we could say with certainty that our database is pristine, has absolutely accurate data, let me tell you, as a marketer, that's we're hunting. We're going to be successful, but typically we're constantly juggling inaccurate data. But I think it's fair to say, is the better data we have, the better job we're going to do. And really, because of the levels of data that I mentioned, the CRM should have the best data, right? And because this is where our salespeople are talking to prospects. And if we've set this stuff up right, the CRM is collecting some fantastic data. But this is the one area that the marketers typically do not have control over. They do not have control over the CRM. So it's a case that there's got to be, to get the best job possible, we have to be aware of where this data is, and definitely this boundary or the integration with the CRM becomes very critical in how we approach it. So it's a case that I think it's never mind. I think without getting into the details, we have to solve the people problems first, right? It's the topic of this presentation today is about CRM integrating with active demand. But I think before we start connecting software, we have to connect people. Right, the people. There has to be a good relationship between the people, and there's got to be some good agreements, some discussions, et cetera. So this is where we got to get the salespeople off the phone and actually engage with us as marketers. Whether we're talking about senior leadership, we have to have a strategy where we have communication and buy-in from us inside the company, because we're going to be tripping all over ourselves, and we're going to get in trouble and make a mess of things if we just start connecting software. So really, we need people and process alignment to actually succeed with a CRM and marketing automation system integration. And this was a quote that was presented with a webinar I did with JP from Pipeline Deals recently, and it was really, I thought it was fantastic. It was, marketing exists. He took this quote from Dave Kellogg, is marketing exists to make sales easier. And with our marketing hats on, if we really, really buy into this and understand that our job is to make it easier as marketers, is to make it easier for folks to sell, then it makes a lot of these discussions and the integration go a lot smoother. So we have to understand what we're, as marketers, we're constantly thinking the prospects. What are the challenges our prospects are facing on a daily basis, so that we can, highlight the pain points, help solve the pain. If we can solve a pain, we're going to get people to engage with our marketing activities. Well, guess what? The salespeople have pain, right? So we sort of got to put ourselves in the mindset, because they control the CRM, and they're typically, obviously they're an important part of the sales process. They're actually the ones doing the selling. So let's put ourselves in the mindset of the salespeople and try to understand the pain they face on a daily basis. And clearly, the number one challenge all salespeople face is time. Right? It's on a daily basis, they are trying to maximize their revenue with the time they've been given at work. They don't want to work 24/7. So if it's time, 80% of their revenue comes from 20% of their activities. So they are wasting 80% of their time. So we need to find ways to, it is always a negotiation. If we can bring a way for the salespeople to more effectively use their time, let me tell you, they're going to come to the table and they're going to be very, very happy to give you access to that great data in the CRM. So the things that are typically killing the salesperson, I think the biggest one is, chasing the wrong people, right? Or chasing the right people, trying to get them to connect, or chasing the right people at the wrong time, and all of this type of stuff. And as marketers, we have such good data and good information that we can help with automation, et cetera, to help the salespeople more effectively use their time. And so if we look at the two systems, and think of it in the context of the marketing funnel and the sales funnel, clearly active demand as the marketing automation system, it is the top of this, it resides for sure at the top of the funnel. And it is the tool set used by marketers for applying pressure to this population of people that are not ready for sales engagement. Clearly, marketing has a role throughout the entire funnel, but definitely it's a case at the top of the funnel. It is the tool set used by the marketers in the marketing funnel. And the CRM is where the sales funnel exists. And the boundary between these two is really this lead prospect boundary here. And our job as marketers is to do a bunch of work at the top of the funnel, apply pressure, and then hopefully we can get folks into the CRM and introduce these folks to the sales organization. Now, clearly, if we marketing, as far as the domain masters of the domain here, marketing is a control up here, right? This is the marketing's tool set, all of the people at the top of the funnel. This is where marketing are engaging. And once it crosses this boundary, the owners of the relationship are the sales organization. So as far as responsibilities, marketing owns it up here. Sales absolutely owns it down here from a people and process perspective. Now, I think that we need clear rules of engagement with the sales organization, right? So marketing and sales have to sit down and talk about, I'm going to go back a slide, talk about this, crossing this boundary, because you're not going to have a lot of salespeople are going to come up here and help the marketers target better, find these people, give them sort of direction as to who we need to chase. But once the direction is given, then marketing up here is doing their job. It's this boundary that is really, really important. So questions for this boundary that need to be discussed with sales is, first and most important, is what is a lead? What do you want, sales? What is it that is going to help you do your job more effectively? Who do you want us to introduce you to? What information is required for you as a salesperson to succeed with this lead? And it's a case that and typically the sales organization is going to be more than one person. If there's one, it's easy. But if there's several, who are we going to be sending this lead to? Are we doing account-based marketing? Are we doing regional reps or this type of stuff? So how do we distribute the lead to the right person? We've got to get the lead to the right person in a timely fashion, give them the right information so they can succeed with what we've just handed them. We've done all this work here on the silver platter. This is what the lead is. And another question we should be asking is, should we actually create a deal, right? So when we say this is a lead, when we're passing it to sales, typically if we're passing it to sales and we've segregated the marketing activities to marketing and we're passing it to sales, then clearly there's an opportunity that is with this prospect that we've sent to sales. So, the question is, should we create a deal in the CRM? And given the context of the state of the prospect that we're handing across that barrier, what stage of the deal should we be pushing it into? Because not every single person that we bring to sales is going to be top of funnel, the sales funnel, because people might come in, hey, I want to buy, right? That's a fairly good signal. Other people are, we're currently looking, but if we've talked to sales and they say that they're looking for where they're the first point of the funnel that they're going to engage with. So I think it's important to ask the question is, what stage of the deal should we set this prospect to based on the context? And in some CRMs, there's this concept of a lead and there's a concept of a contact. And really, that has to be discussed with the sales organization, because they have some strategies and in setting up the CRM. So it's a case that this has to be set up. Now, consider actually building an actual contract, an internal contract between marketing and sales that clearly outlines what we've agreed upon from the marketing and sales organization with in the context of what is a lead, right? Because we're going to, as marketing, we're going to have to define how many we're going to, promise or make commitments on how many we're going to produce. But really, it's the definition of what we're trying to produce that needs to be clearly documented. And you should consider an internal contract on this, so it's very clear at the end of the year, and there's no discussions, or I should say, areas of cloudiness. Is that we're creating this lead, we put it in this set of the deal stage as per our contract. And of course, it can be reviewed quarterly or what have you. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is really, once we've passed people to sales, they are owning these prospects, and this is funnel shaped. And the reason that it is funnel shaped, because there's more people at the top than there are at the bottom. So naturally, there's going to be this pushing of people out of the CRM because there's no longer an opportunity. And if we're pushing them not out of the CRM, but out of the sales funnel rather. So if it's out of the sales funnel, then clearly it's going to be passed back to marketing to do their job. So we're passing the ball back to marketing for engagement. So it's a case that the same story here, we have to have clear rules of engagement. The questions that need to be asked or agreed upon between sales and marketing is, how do we know this deal is dead? How are you telling me? Is it closed lost? Is that how you notify us that this is a prospect that we can go, or a contact rather, that we can go chase again? How should we engage with these people? Who shouldn't we engage with? Because, sometimes the deal is dead because, this people will never buy from us. So quit wasting marketing's time. We shouldn't be wasting marketing's time trying to polish a turd, so to speak. And what data as a marketer, and this is something that you need to ask marketers and internally, is what data do I need as a marketer to succeed? So what data is in the CRM that do I need to succeed with engaging with this person that fell out of the sales funnel? And again, consider a contract. Right, is consider an actual document that highlights this, with both representatives from the two teams to actually sign the document. Now, I would say the stickiest part of the whole story is really in here. Is during the part of the funnel where sales are actually engaged. Right, back to the original, the challenges that salespeople face. It's this time aspect. So there are people in the funnel where sales are engaging, where marketing can actually help, right? So it's here that there's marketing can play a very, very strong role in, but it is really, really important that there is alignment. Right, because this is the part of the funnel where sales are in control and marketing is there to help. So it's a case that really there's got to be some very, very good coordination in this part of the funnel. And clearly there's got to be this reflection of the data from the CRM into active demand, so that marketing has very good data. So there's a technical aspect to this, as well as the personal aspect of this between the marketing and sales organizations. So same story here, clear rules of engagement. And the biggest question is, how can we help? Right? That's the question that really should be asked of the sales organization. For those people you're currently engaged in, how can we help get you better use of your time, right? How can we help accelerate the process for you? What is it that we can do with our tools and our expertise to help move these people through the buyer journey? When can we engage, right? What is it that is the prospect's going to do, or how are you telling us that we can engage with this population of people? Who and when should we never engage with? right? That's very important. I think that's it's because there's going to be we don't want to screw up the deal. We don't want to get in the way of sales. So really, it's a case we should be asking the question is when who should we never engage with? And really, this should be the case for all engagement marketing, but this one is really important to define. What are the goals of engagement, right? What am I trying to do explicitly? What am I trying to get these prospects to do to help sales? And again, I keep reiterating this, and because I think this was introduced to me as a concept by JP from Pipeline Deals. Consider a contract, right? Get it in writing, right? Is the best way to make sure that there's alignment is again is if you write it down. Now, the last part of this story here is of course, the after the sale. So once somebody is purchased and they're actually now a customer, clearly this is a role for marketing to cross-sell, upsell, etc. So as expand the sale, marketing can help considerably, but the responsibility quite often moves into marketing because sales are really about hunting the next deal, typically. So it's a case that now we're in this phase where we're engaging with customers, right? And same story here, clear rules of engagement on the people side is again, when can we engage? When is it what is the signal that indicates that this is ready for sales marketing engagement? Again, what are the goals of engagement? Are we trying to get this person to do a case study, or what is it that we can do from a marketing perspective to help sales, cross-sell, upsell, etc. And which people within the organization that just purchased can we engage with? And again, I'm going to say it again, consider a contract, get it in writing. So really, I think that all of this, and I know we're going to get into the details here, but I wanted to start with philosophy and get some strategies in place and et cetera. And I think we have to go back to the very first slide. What is the role of marketing? And I think it's about making it easier to sell. So we have to have clear alignment between the people, between marketing and sales. And I think that before you start connecting software, active demand, to the CRM, you got to be talking to the salespeople before we make any connections. We have to because I've seen time and time again where people start connecting to the CRM and then the VP of sales comes down the mountain and says, "What the heck is going on here?" I'm seeing way too much information, or you're messing you're cramping my style, or whatever it is. And if you're starting, the first engagement with sales is, "Hey, how did you screw up my CRM?" It's going to be a lot more difficult to actually dial it back and get these contracts in place. And really, it's a case that, and think of this, is the more you help sales, the more they're going to help you. They control the fantastic data that's in the CRM. And really, if you come into it with the thinking that I'm here to help, let me tell you, they're going to be very, very excited, because one thing about sales is they are coin operated. They want to do less work and make more money. That's the reality of it. And again, this one here, it's a bit of a touchy subject, but I think that consider internal contracts throughout this entire process. Because if we can document it, get clear, stake in the ground, this is what we've agreed to, then I think it's going to make things a lot easier during the integration. So that was the slides part of this, and I think I'm going to talk about. So throughout this demo, we Active Demand integrates with many CRMs, and I just have to pick one out of the hat for this demonstration to give some examples. And the one I'm going to be doing the demonstration with here is using Pipeline Deals. But again, all of the stuff I'm showing here is true for all of the CRMs that we integrate with. So I'm going to start with typically when we first start the engagement with an integration, is if we've just with a new fresh install of Active Demand, usually the data is really the data that we're going to start with is actually in the CRM. So what we're wanting to do is take the data from the CRM, and particularly it's the prospects that are not currently engaged with a salesperson. So the first part of the integration is going to be pulling data from the CRM that are the people that are dead, out of the not in the funnel, or basically the data is in the CRM to start with. And it might be a mess to begin with, but the first part of this discussion is going to be taking the data out of the CRM, because there's lots of good data in here. We're going to start with taking the data out of the CRM. So the first thing that we need to sort of think about as a marketing organization is what data do we want, right? What data is in the CRM that we want? And typically it's the metadata, right? So the metadata means that we've got to start building custom fields in active demand. So it's a case that we look at the schema of the CRM and pick that which we need as marketers, right? We don't need everything. And what that's going to involve is building out custom fields in active demand. So we are going to, one of the good ones to start off with is a deal stage, right? I think that's a good one, deal status, because we might want to be only engaging with the people that don't have a deal, or the status is closed, lost, or something like that. And the classifications of the prospects, the industries, all of this type of stuff are great questions to be asking yourselves as to what you need to succeed for personalizing, building trust, doing all of the things that marketing needs to do. So it's really coming into active demand, going into the account settings, and building out all of the custom fields that you need from the CRM, for the data for the CRM. And then once you've connected the CRM, and there's typically an authentication process. I'm not going to go through that in this presentation today. But then it's going to the CRM contact updates. And this is, instead of just bulk importing everybody, because you can go bulk import everybody from the CRM, is I would actually start here. And this is the, depending on the CRM type, some of the CRMs, it's a scheduled poll. Other CRMs, it's a webhook where we're doing real-time connections to the CRM. But you set up the connection from the CRM to active demand. And depending on the CRM, some CRMs you have an option to pull in leads as well as contacts. But other CRMs is just, here's the database, pull it in. So the most important part of this field mapping from the CRM to active demand is this here, is the lookup key, right? And active demand's deduping is done, the lookup field for active demand is the email address. So we have to have an email address to map for lookup key. We can use things like Twitter handles or contact IDs if the database is not going to be email addresses, but typically as marketers, we're dealing with email addresses, right? So it's a case that we want to map the most important one is the email address. Second most important is definitely the first name, because quite often we're using merge fields for the dynamic fields rather for our personalization. And then it's the case the organization is really, really important, right? Is pull in the company name of the organization, map it. And finally, I think that the one of the more important ones for personalization is getting the contact owner mapped into the contact owner, the contact manager in active demand. And don't forget about the updating existing contacts. And when we're doing updating, it's a case that there's a checkbox on, like, for example, here, where's the organization name? I'm just going to, right here. Don't forget about this little checkbox right here, because that's saying that, and this should always be checked for most stuff, because this is saying the data in the CRM is the master, right? And once we've mapped that, it's a case that go next, and it'll give you the option to bulk import everything that exists. And that's typically there's where you do your bulk import. And then now, once we've got our bulk import going and we start doing marketing activities, I think one of the most important things is, again, back to this slide here, it's this boundary here. Because if we're going to do marketing activities with the dead prospects, it's how do we introduce people to the sales organization? And of course, this is managed in the lead processing workflow. So this is where you're going to define the flow as to what is a lead and who are we sending it to, and are we creating a deal in the CRM. So this workflow fires whenever a prospect submits a form, chats, this type of stuff. And when it fires, you can do all the decision making. And quite often, like what we do in our organization, is we actually send the lead first to marketing and wait for classification. And our marketers actually classify the leads to maintain their end of the contract with our sales organization. You don't have to do this, but it's something to consider. You can do a wait for change, wait for a classification by marketers. And then once it's classified, you can send it off to the proper sales organizations, and consider using our claim system, because this allows us to basically send the lead to a group of salespeople, and then the person who claims it, they become the contact owner in active demand, and then we can post it to the CRM based on our discussions and our contract with the sales organization. So we can create the deal, and most of the CRMs that we actually integrate with, there is the concept of creating a deal or an opportunity. And once we create the deal, the person who's claimed it is the contact owner. Of course, if a deal exists already, we do not want to change the deal stage. And it's a case that we will post the deal in the proper deal stage and consider actually scheduling a task with the prospect, with the salesperson after the deal is created. The task could be something like phone this person or something like that. And you have to talk to the sales organization. And this is really not to hold them to hold their feet to the fire to get something done. It's more of, again, how can I help you? What is it you're typically doing right after that deal is created? And quite often they're going to schedule a task for themselves to go follow up with this person. So do it for them. That'll make them happy. Now, whenever we post to the CRM, the data that we're going to push to the CRM is our metadata. So in our account settings, we're going to have our fields that we're going to update in the CRM. So you have to be extremely careful when you're doing this. And I argue you want to have the minimal amount of data being overwritten in the CRM when we post. So we give you options to map everything, but typically all I will map is the first name, last name, and email address. And let the CRM take care of what the company name is, right? Because we don't want to create duplicate organizations, this type of stuff. So quite often I won't even map the org name when I'm posting to the CRM. Most of the CRMs we integrate with, we actually have a set field object. So if there's specific data that on a contextual basis that you want to post to the CRM, instead of just mapping everything in the CRM mapping part of the product, you can actually, snipe, sort of like using a sniper rifle, you can pick and choose specific fields that you want to set based on context. Like, for example, I download an asset. Maybe I want to set that this person's downloaded a white paper. I'm not sure, right? And then when we're flowing the data into the CRM, I see a lot of people, we do have an activity posting workflow that flows data into as transactions onto a timeline in the CRM. And I argue you don't want to post too much this way, right? And the reason being is the CRMs just typically aren't geared to handle these massive timelines of transactional data like we have in active demand. So it's a case that what we've done is we've exposed that in our Chrome extension using our prospect insights. So in the old days, I see people posting email opens, email link clicks, all of this stuff in the CRM, but you don't need to. Ask the salespeople to install the Chrome extension, and all of this stuff will automatically be exposed in the CRM. So we don't have to overload the CRM with all this transactional data. They can use the Chrome extension to see this data, right? So I really it's about, and I've seen this as well, is that the salespeople, oh my God, you're just pushing so much information into the CRM, please make it stop. And then they shut the link down, and all of a sudden we're in a bad spot where we're, not talking technical, we're putting out fires internally. So there's some great data. The simple thing to show the salespeople is prospect insights and the account insights, because this is some great information to help the salespeople save time, right? And also, it's a case that we have the sales dialer that saves time for them. And as well, I'll go back to my slide here and back to the question of how do I help, right? So we're now in this place here where we've actually passed the deal into the CRM. So now the question is how, as marketers, can we help you, Mr. Salesperson or Mrs. Salesperson, more effectively use your time, right? And so one way that is easy is creating user drip campaigns, right? These are drip campaigns that are only exposed to the salespeople. So a user drip is it's a case that it's triggered by the salesperson, and so for example they can assign a drip campaign saying, hey, I tried to call you, you were busy. Busy's good. Pick a time on my appointment scheduler. So the campaign starting step that is user drip are the only drip campaign types that will be exposed in the Chrome extension for the salespeople. So again, it's what am I do? How can I help? Man, this is a fantastic way to help a salesperson, is give them some tools to nurture some prospects that they're trying to get to book a meeting with them. Set up an appointment scheduler for them. Oh, they'll love you forever. So it's a case that there's the user drip campaigns. And when you're doing these user drip campaigns, don't forget your goals. And typically what we want to do with the user drip is if they've opened an email or replied to an email, phone, deal state, whatever, you want to get the prospect to kick out of this automation, because automation is fantastic, but salespeople, a good way to burn a salesperson is have all these emails where they don't have control. But they do have the control in here to remove people out of drip campaigns as well. Note that they can pull people out of drip campaigns right here in the Chrome extension. Now, it's a case that there's also another fantastic way we can help is it's a case that, prospects that are unresponsive. So we can do the contact change drip campaign, and if they move a deal stage or set some type of a flag in the CRM that says this person's dead, but there's still an opportunity, they can trigger drip campaigns automatically, or you can set them up to trigger drip campaigns based on the state change of the prospect. So you can say, for example, deal stage is unresponsive, or there's a metadata change saying they're unresponsive. Using the contact change drip campaign type is a great way to provide value in the during the stage where the prospect is in this part of the funnel here. And then finally, the last thing I'll talk about is, of course, once the prospect has bought. Right? So now there's a time for marketing to engage. So we can do drip campaigns based on, for example, we do collect for a lot of the CRMs a deal one history item when somebody closes a deal. So we can trigger a drip campaign based on the deal closed one, I should say the deal one history item. Or we can build audiences of people who are in the deal stage of closed one. Right? And or the state of opportunity closed and status one. And the reason we would build an audience for this, as opposed to just using a contact history trigger or a metadata change, is with the audience, we actually have the benefit of linking the audience into the ad platforms. So somebody just bought, we can start retargeting these people with ads saying, hey, thanks for buying, and here's some things to think about. Tell your friends. Like, this is a great campaign, customer reviews and testimonials, getting the person to give a review, right? So you can set up an entire review process where if they give you a positive review, off to social media they go. If they give you a negative review, feed it back to sales and let sales engage with the prospect. So that's pretty much the concludes this session, and really, hopefully I've communicated that there's really a people problem to solve before we do this fantastic technical integration with the CRMs, because Active Demand has got fantastic integration with the CRMs, and really the biggest challenge to face with all of this is really getting people talking to people within the organization.